right, everybody, listen up, listen up.
He's got a great voice. I can't project as well as you, Bill, but hopefully everyone can hear me. I just wanted to say good evening to everyone. Thank you for coming out on such a chilly night. It warms my heart to see so many of you show up, all these beautiful, familiar faces. I see a lot of familiar people in the crowd. Thank you for being here. I just wanted to quickly say to you, I don't want to take up too much time because this is Bill's event. What a beautiful crowd. I'm taking notes because I get nervous. You don't mind. I'm not going to myself at this point. I wanted to extend a warm welcome. Okay. We are delighted to have you all here. Tonight we have a truly extraordinary guest, Mr. Bill Bale. Many of you may know him from K104.
Oh, jeez.
Very popular on K104. And he also happens to be the Dutchess County Head of Emergency Response. What's the first person to be bringing this presentation? He's done these in the past, and I've attended one of them in Fishkill, and it was a phenomenal experience, which is why I wanted to make sure to organize this event with Dutchess, because it really hasn't happened here for a while. And I think the last time it happened, we already had only 8 people show up, so this is a tremendous turnout. Thank you for that. I wanted to extend a heartfelt gratitude, my heartfelt gratitude, to Medical Reserve Corps for working behind the scenes and on the front lines of this event and bringing this event to us. And thank you to the volunteers who helped set up our chairs today from Beacon Mutual Aid. Thank you. We have our president, Rose Alejandra. And I just wanted to make sure that if there are any names I forgot, I appreciate everything you're doing to help make this event happen tonight. I know we have a lot of volunteers that may not know everybody's name. I also want to thank the venue, Harold Delamater and the crew that helped put this event together for us and gave us this venue to use. The other thing I wanted to say was, let's just give a warm welcome to Bill.
Thank you. So how about Kathy? I mean, Kathy is the reason why. That's why the event's happening. So Kathy sent me about 47 emails
I had 2 hours sleep,
to book this. Bill, first email. Bill, second email. Then it became third attempt. 4th attempt.
No more Bill, huh?
It was all right. We'll say she's very persistent in wanting to bring this training here to Beacon. And boy, did Beacon show up. Look at Beacon. Give yourselves a big round of applause here, huh? Wow, great. So first, it's certainly an honor to be here, not only in the city of Beacon, but at the Veterans Memorial Building. Are there any veterans here in the audience? Veterans, identify yourselves. Thank you for your service. Thank you. Thank you. We live in a crazy world, especially right now, and we cannot forget the sacrifice that those have made for all of us in years past and in today, what's happening today. So certainly here at the home of the VFW, Beacon Post 666, American Legion, Beacon Post 203, Marine Corps League Detachment 861, the Nam Knights Iron Horse Chapter Motorcycle Club, right? This is their home. They're allowing us to be here this evening to share this information. So again, another round of applause for our veterans. So how many folks have been to a citizen preparedness program before? Anyone here? Okay, all right. Was it a local offering or was it whereabouts?
It was here at the fire department.
Okay.
All the way at the end of Maine. I think it's Tompkins.
Gotcha, gotcha. How about you? Where?
Town.
The town, Fishkill? Was I presenting any of these?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. So my name's William Beal. I'm the Director of Emergency Management for Dutchess County, and we have been presenting citizen preparedness training since 2015 in Dutchess County. In 2015, the county executive at the time decided that he wanted us to go out into the community and help prepare folks in the community to make communities more resilient, right? And not just talking words at the community, but to actually bring some tools that we can provide to you all as long as you pass our 100-question exam. All right, no, just kidding. You're all going to get one of these. We'll talk about this. But we want to put something tangible in your hands as you walk out this evening, right? We want to give you a little bit of knowledge, but we want to give you some tools here so that you can be better prepared as a community. So we're going to talk about that. So here in Beacon, we were here previously a number of years ago. It was pre-COVID when we were here, so I don't remember anything before March 8th, 2020. Dutchess County Emergency Management was very involved during the COVID pandemic, I should say. Trish, who is to your left, was our Director of COVID Resources as COVID came to an end, so a big round of applause. Now, Trish Monk is an emergency preparedness coordinator. She previously was a public health educator, but she was the perfect person to elevate to the Director of COVID Resources for the home stretch of COVID, right? And that home stretch involved setting up those COVID vaccine sites and getting people vaccinated, distributing the PPE, right? It was important that the county followed through, right? We were all in from March 8th, 2020, through the year 2020, through the year 2021, 2022. We're like, is this over yet? Please. But we finally were able to finish our COVID distribution of PPE and vaccination efforts as of June 1st of 2023. So just about 3.5 years being submerged in COVID. And certainly those that are here this evening that choose to wear a mask, we respect that. That's fine. Those that choose not to wear a mask, that's fine as long as you're not sick. Okay? If you came here sick tonight and you know, you're sitting in the crowd, probably not a good idea, right? Right? Especially at a preparedness event. And it's not always about COVID. What else can affect us, right? What other illnesses can affect us? Flu. Let's not forget about the flu. Nobody wants that. Last week we did this in the town of Fishkill for the senior citizens. It was still summer last week. This week apparently it's winter now. It just happened overnight. Temperatures dropped, right? It was like 80 degrees on Saturday. It's like 38 degrees outside now. So we're going through the change of seasons. So we need to be understanding that there are still illnesses out there. Is COVID still there? Yes. Yeah, COVID is still there, right? I think we're going to live with COVID for a long time, but we just need to understand there are some folks that may be more susceptible and vulnerable to COVID, flu, what else? RSV, right? We just need to understand that there's not always going to be a time where every single person is going to be able to fight off every single illness. So we need to respect each other and understand that there will be times where we need to wear masks, and that's just going to be the way it is. So if you feel more comfortable wearing a mask, go for it. So where have we been with this program? We have been all throughout the county. Like I said, in 2015, this thing began at Dutchess Community College. It started out as a joint venture with the state of New York, and we trained about 200 people on the first night. It was the largest preparedness training between New York City and Albany at the time. It got the attention of the governor's office, got the attention of the county executive's office, and we were able to get federal funding to support this program and bring it locally throughout Dutchess County. Now, the Red Cross still provides their program, great program. The state of New York still provides their program, great program, but you don't get a parting gift at those programs. The only state program that offers a backpack is when the governor comes to town and offers the program, and they don't do that in Dutchess County because they know that we offer a better product to our community. So we've been to Amenia, we've been to the town of Beekman, we've been to Dover a few times, East Fishkill, town of Fishkill a number of times, Hyde Park. We've been to the town of Northeast. Anyone ever been to the town of Northeast in Dutchess County? It's on the corner of Connecticut and Massachusetts. You better have a full tank of gas if you're going to head out to the town of Northeast. It is in Dutchess County, believe it or not. The Northeast Millerton Library. It's about as far northeast as you can get. Beautiful country up there. But again, make sure you don't have to get gas on the way back. You may not make it back, right? We've been to Pauling, we've been to Pine Plains, right? These are areas across our county that have different types of attributes, right? We're in more of an urban setting here in Beacon, right? Pine Plains, I think there's more horses in Pine Plains than people, right? I think so. Town of Stamford, we've been to a number of times, 3 times in fact. Every time we go to Town of Stamford, it's snowing. I don't know why, but it just is. Every time we're in Stamford, it's snowing. Red Hook, Rhinebeck, Town of Poughkeepsie, City of Poughkeepsie, Unionville, Town of Wappinger last week. We had a waiting list actually on the Town of Wappinger because it's a smaller room, so some folks were offered the opportunity to come here to this training that couldn't get into that one. Dutchess Community College a number of times. And then we've done a couple Office for the Aging events. Last week in the town of Fishkill, we did a daytime session for senior citizens. It's basically the same content, but it's facilitated by the Office for the Aging, which is a great organization, part of county government, offering services to those that want additional services for seniors, right? So my point here is we've trained over 3,000 people in Dutchess County with this effort, right? And we're probably the only county in New York State that's doing this program from a county perspective. So we're proud of that, and we appreciate you all being here. Thank you. So here this evening, the Medical Reserve Corps was mentioned already, but the folks that are wearing the vests are from our great Medical Reserve Corps. Wendy Cady is our coordinator, and that particular organization is 100% volunteer with the exception of our paid coordinator who's full-time to manage. How many people are we managing now, Wendy, in the Medical Reserve Corps?
1,805.
1,805. Wow. So the Medical Reserve Corps is an organization that you can join as a volunteer. If you want to be in the inner circle of training, the inner circle of preparedness in Dutchess County, speak to one of our MRC volunteers because you can join and take all sorts of different trainings just like this. You can become qualified in a number of different disciplines. In fact, during COVID, we would not have been able to stand up those COVID vaccination sites without the Medical Reserve Corps. The MRC was really the heart of those, what we call pod sites, because we don't have enough full-time staff in county government to run that type of an operation for that many days, that many weeks, that many months. So the MRC was vital in being able to do that. Now, what do they do on what we call Blue Sky Day, right? Blue Sky Days in emergency management are days when there's, nothing really going on. Well, there's always something going on, but it's more of a day when we're planning or we're doing education like this. The MRC has a number of different training opportunities. We'll mention tonight a number of them, but let me get the plug in right now. So pet first aid training is a very popular training that our MRC facilitates with our animal response team. We have a group of folks that are animal enthusiasts and an animal response team, basically we'll talk a little bit about it here this evening, is responsible during a major emergency or disaster for helping facilitate companion animals and agricultural animals. So they will be putting on pet first aid training with our favorite veterinarian. What's his name?
Dr. McNamara.
Dr. McNamara, who on New Year's Eve, Dr. McNamara posted a picture of himself in Times Square with NYPD and all their canines. That's how ingrained this guy is with emergency services. So he's going to be teaching the class. It will be full, but we have an opportunity for you to sign up for this offering. Information will be on the table. That's on December 12th. It'll be in Hyde Park at our Emergency Response Center. Also, other opportunities, active shooter stop the bleed training, which is coming up November 28th at our office as well. We'll talk more about active shooter stop the bleed. It's an unfortunate reality these days that we do have to offer training to folks on how to stop the bleed, right? And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the program this evening, but that's Tuesday, November 28th. Now, these flyers that you see here, this is what the lay public gets to see, right? If you're in the Medical Reserve Corps, you'll get an email every Monday with a breakdown of all these training opportunities, giving you the first opportunity to sign up for them. And it's a great, great organization. So let's jump into this. This program goes till about midnight tonight, so we hope you all have time. I'm just kidding. The goal is 90 minutes. That's the goal. Let me just tell, I'm just going to put it out there, okay? So I had this thing down to, an hour and 25 minutes. And then Trish, who designs the program, told me last week, she goes, I put a couple extra slides in. I put a couple extra slides in. You may want to look at it ahead of time. And I said, Trish, you know I don't look at these things ahead of time because it just makes it more interesting for me to see the surprise slides pop up and try to figure out how to navigate them. So, if we go longer than an hour and a half, you can thank Trish for her hard work because she has to design everything. You'll see the pictures and everything. That's all Trish. She does all this hard work. So give her a round of applause. So what is preparedness? That's why we're here tonight, right? We want to be more prepared. As a community, research has shown if we are more prepared, we're more resilient, right? So if there's a major emergency or if there's a disaster that affects our community, if we train together as a community, we're going to be more resilient as a community. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So the boring definition of preparedness defined by FEMA, which has among the most boring definitions of any organization, a continuous cycle of planning, organizing, training, equipping, exercising, evaluating, and taking corrective action in an effort to ensure effective coordination during incident response. That's the boring definition of what preparedness is. What we're talking about is planning ahead and taking measures to prepare for and reduce the effects of disasters, either natural or man-made, right? So we want to be prepared. We want to actually take the time to have conversations with our family and our friends to plan ahead. That's the whole point of this evening. So we ask people as we do this program, how do you rate your level of preparedness? How many folks in this room feel that they are well prepared for emergencies? Well prepared. Okay, good. I mean, this is normal. It's usually a smaller percentage of people that feel they're well prepared. How about this? I've thought about preparing for emergencies and have gathered some supplies. That's most people, right? We've thought about it. We've gathered some supplies, right? I know that it's important to prepare for emergencies, but I have not done so. You don't have to raise your hand for that. There's a lot of folks that think about it, but just don't have the time or the ability to prepare for emergencies. We get that. We live in New York, right? How many full-time jobs do you need to have now in order to live in New York, right? 5, oh my gosh. Check. Right? Beacon, how about that Beacon rent, right? I'm just saying. No, I don't know how to prepare for a disaster or emergency and have no plans in place. You don't have to raise your hand. The point is there are folks out there that don't know where to start, right? We specifically put this program in different areas around the county because we understand that there are some areas of the county where there are more vulnerable people, right? There are more people that may not have the means to prepare. So we want to bring the knowledge, bring some tools to those areas. That's why we're here this evening. Some of the barriers to being prepared, like what has prevented you from being prepared? How many people here think that nothing is going to happen? I don't think anything's going to happen, right? Well, maybe we used to think that way, but what we're seeing now is a higher rate of major emergencies and disasters, right? Normally we would get about 7 inches of rain in a season. We're over 42 inches this time around. You know, it is what it is. We have not in Dutchess County encountered anything near what some other counties have seen with flooding, right? Highland Falls, which is near West Point, has seen some major impacts from flooding. West Point itself has seen some major impacts from flooding. Believe it or not, during that weather event that affected those areas and also Westchester County, we got very lucky because the rate of rainfall in Dutchess County was not as significant as it was in those counties. In other words, we were getting 3 inches of rain over a 24-hour period. They were getting 3 inches of rain in a 1-hour period. So that's something that we monitor at our office when we see these weather events coming in. If I see a forecast for 3 inches of rain in an hour, I know that there are certain areas of Dutchess County that are going to be impacted. We have sheriff's deputies that will go out to specific areas along different watersheds to get eyes on those areas. I know if those areas are starting to flood, we're going to have a problem. Go back to 2012, City of Poughkeepsie, Warriors Park, underwater, right? Hurricane Irene and Lee coming through. The Hudson River's a tidal estuary. During that time, there was a lot of coastal surge that came up, pushed it right into the City of Poughkeepsie. And when people that have lived in that area for 40 years say, I've never seen this before, as an emergency manager, that's a red flag, right? So we have kept an eye on that area. They've done some mitigation to prevent that, but we are very cognizant of the fact that we could see major flooding in Dutchess County. Some people can't afford all the supplies. We talked about that, right? We understand that can be a barrier. That's why we want to start you off with some starter supplies here. We call this a preparedness starter kit, and we'll talk about why, and there's a lot of room in there to add things. I don't like to think about disasters. Nobody likes to think about disasters, right? Unfortunately, it seems like every time we turn the television on, there's something else. There's another crisis going on. I have no time to plan. That's a real concern, obviously, right? Folks that are jobs or have a lot of things going on, it's not necessarily the front of your mind to plan. I can tell you right now, the fact that you're in this room, you're already ahead of the game. You've taken the time tonight to come to this, to learn more, which is key. I know help will come when I need it. Well, 99.9% of the time, if you need help, they're going to show up, right? But if there's a major emergency or a disaster or a lot of things happening in one particular area at once, there could be a delay, right? Yep. We need to prepare for that. Part of the objective here is to prepare you in a way that you won't have to rush to call 911 so quickly. If you can be self-sufficient just a little bit longer, it's going to help us at the county level prioritize the call volume, right? Because if you're calling 911 for a flooded basement and your neighbor down the road's calling 911 for a major medical emergency, right, there's going to be a triage of calls, right? The life-threatening calls will go first. Sometimes calls will be put on the back burner for a little while until they can get to it, right? That's not something you want to hear when you're calling as water's rushing into your basement, right? So we'll talk about that. So this evening we want you to understand the risks, understand your needs, make a plan, build a kit, stay informed. We're going to give you information specific to Dutchess County, specific to this region of Dutchess County on how you can be better prepared. First of all, understanding the risks, right? We want you to know the types of hazards in your community and how to respond to them. We'll talk about that. Be aware of any warning and notification systems that are available in your area. In other words, how can we communicate with you? How many folks had a cell phone go off for the national alert a couple weeks ago? Hopefully everybody. Some folks didn't, but I will tell you this. So there was a lot of conspiracies out there ahead of that whole thing. But let me just tell you this. The platform that they were testing is also the same platform we use at the local level, right? We'll talk about what that platform is. We'll talk about how important that platform is, because reaching folks in an emergency and giving them actionable information can be a real challenge when there's so many different platforms out there right now, right? The one platform that they were testing a couple weeks ago is called the Wireless Emergency Alert Platform, which allows us to send imminently life-threatening alerts to your cell phone, right? We're not going to send you something that's not life-threatening to your cell phone. We're going to send you something that is very important that you need to respond to in some way, shape, or form. So we'll talk about that and how that works in a few. Looking at Dutchess County as a whole, we're nearly 300,000 residents. About 33% of the population of Dutchess County is concentrated in the southwest quadrant. Where are we right now? We're in the southwest quadrant, right? So as an emergency planner, why are we concerned about where the people are, where the most population is? So density equals more people equals more calls for service, right? It also presents more challenges with evacuation. So if we need to evacuate people from a given area, it's going to be more challenging for us to evacuate folks in the city of Beacon, right, than it would be out in the town of Unionville, because there's more people, right? It's more challenging. So when we plan in Dutchess County, we understand that moving people in the southwest quadrant will be more challenging. Trying to get people to go from point A to B can sometimes be impossible. The trend in emergency management right now is not to evacuate people unless you absolutely have to. Shelter in place. We'll talk about what that means. Sometimes that's actually safer than getting people to move. Looking at the county as a whole, 18.5% of the population is over 65, 18.4% of the population is under 18, and 8 to 13% of the population is under 65 years of age and has a disability. So these are things that we're looking at as we plan. As we plan for emergencies at the county level, we have to accommodate all people, not just some people. So we understand there's folks out there that may have challenges evacuating their home. We understand that there are folks out there that are aging in place, right? They may need additional services. It's our responsibility as a county to plan for folks of all abilities, and we'll talk about that. Dutchess County borders along the Hudson River. What could possibly go wrong there? Flooding? That's one concern. What travels up and down the river? Big barges full of what? Oil. So there's petroleum products going up and down the river. We're aware of that, obviously. What's going up and down the rails?
Toxic materials.
So on this side of the river, we have, during the daytime, we have commuter travel on the rails, right? On the overnights, what's on the rails on the overnights here? There's garbage. There's also hazardous materials. There's chlorine that goes up and down the rails. These are things that are happening in Dutchess County that we are aware of, we plan for. On the other side of the river, which is mainly a freight line, there's Bakken crude oil going up and down, which is something that can be volatile as well. So why am I concerned about what's happening on the Hudson River and what's happening alongside the Hudson River? Because believe it or not, about 100,000 people drink their water from the Hudson River. So if something were to happen on the river, my office needs to be notified immediately, and it has been in the past. We had a barge actually ran aground in the village of Catskill, right? And Rhinebeck, there's a water intake in the Rhinebeck area, and because the Hudson River goes north and south, that had to be addressed. Luckily nothing leaked, but we're aware of that. So we plan for these types of things. We also plan for emergencies that could happen on the commuter rail. I mean, you saw what happened a number of years ago at Spuyten-Duyvil, right? So we have pre-deployed mass casualty incident trailers around Dutchess County. God forbid we ever have a significant situation in which we have to treat a number of patients, right? We saw what happened with that charter bus in Orange County where they had a lot of patients real fast. We've ran that scenario in Dutchess County as well. We can respond to those types of things. Hopefully that never happens in Dutchess County. So numerous watersheds prone to flooding across Dutchess County, Wappingers Creek, Fishkill Creek, 10 Mile Creek watersheds, limited north to south and east to west transportation corridors outside of the major thoroughfares. So for you folks, if we ever have to ask you to leave a specific area, since you all live in Beacon, you need to know the back roads, because some folks that are visiting or in the area will jump on the main road. So what do we have for the main west and east thoroughfare in Beacon? Well, 84 is pretty close, right? But what about in Beacon itself?
52.
52 is a big one. So know your way around 52, because what happens in Fishkill every day between 4:30 and 6:30? On a normal blue sky day, right?
Can't get on the bridge.
Yeah, right. So that's gridlock on a normal day. God forbid there's an emergency and people have to leave an area. You need to know the back routes. You need to know the secret ways to get around, right? When there's an accident on 84, the village of Fishkill becomes gridlocked between Route 9, 52. There's nothing that can even be done about that. We've actually tried to walk through this, right, with the police. How can we correct this? There's really no way, because when you're pushing everybody off 84, if something's happening on the bridge and you're pushing everybody off 84, there's nowhere to go. They end up on 52. They're either going to make a right and go towards Route 9 or make a left and come this way. So that's something that can happen on a day when there's no real emergency. So my point here is, if we have to evacuate a specific area in Beacon, or if we have to ask you to not be in a specific area, know the back roads. We talked about the commuter rail lines, Amtrak, also Hudson Valley Regional Airport in Dutchess County, general aviation airstrips. We plan for these types of locations. The Dutchess County Airport, or as it's known now, the Hudson Valley Regional Airport, it's very busy with recreational pilots and also commercial corporate jets, believe it or not, going in and out of there on a regular basis. Sky Acres Airport in the town of Unionville. Most people write these things off, no big deal, until a plane crashed in a house a couple years ago. That was not a good situation. But we plan for these types of things and we respond accordingly. One large electrical substation, one telecommunications switching station, the Iroquois pipeline, that's all critical infrastructure here in Dutchess County. We hear about these cyber attacks happening across the country. We have plans in place to try to avoid critical infrastructure being interrupted by cyber attacks. New York City's aqueduct runs under Dutchess County. Anybody know that? More than 51% of New York City's daily drinking water runs under Dutchess County. What could possibly go wrong?
Can I ask you a question?
Could happen. Go ahead.
When did we start drinking water from the Hudson River?
Well, certain communities do.
Really?
Yeah, certain communities. I mean, they don't drink it. They're not putting a straw in the river. I mean, they're they're treating it. There's 7 intakes. There's 7 intakes. Town of Poughkeepsie, City of Poughkeepsie.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Yeah. Yep, yeah. So yours comes off top of Mount Beacon. You got 2
worms be in it.
Well, I don't know about that, but I can tell you that Beacon has beautiful reservoirs that are up at a high elevation. And one of the things that comes across my desk on a regular basis is the old dam that's on the reservoir. That's like 150 years old, right? And the city has been working on how to continue improving it, because dams were built, 100 plus years ago and need to be maintained, and it's often very expensive for communities to do that. You have the elevation. It's, a good location for water. It's coming down gravity fed, and it's, not coming out of the Hudson River. So the aqueduct, the aqueduct that runs under Dutchess County comes all the way from the Catskill reservoirs down to New York City. So somebody said terrorism could be a problem. If you've ever seen the New York City Department of Environmental Protection police vehicles driving around, they look like NYPD police cars. They're specifically assigned to the aqueduct for security purposes. And that's very important. You'll see the New York City Department of Environmental Protection hazardous materials trucks too. They also work out of that location, because think about this. If you can't get that drinking water down to New York City, your pizza dough is not going to rise in New York City. So that's a big deal. Sir in the back, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that
sure.
Our water does not only come from the reservoir, but we also use the wells in Fishkill.
Oh, there you go.
And there's 3 reservoirs we get water from.
Got it.
The dam from the top of Mount Beacon, just being repaired.
There you go. Well, that's great news. So multiple water sources, which is key, right? You have redundancies. So if you don't have access to one water source, you have another one. Go ahead, ma'am.
Oh, I just wanted to add that during the September 11th, I was a correction officer, and corrections has what they call CERT, activation teams, and they were activated and they were guarding around the clock some of the aqueducts. So they see correction officers providing assistance.
Yes.
Preparedness, and they are trained.
There you go, certainly. So a lot of critical infrastructure in Dutchess County that we take very seriously, and Beacon has great resources. Looking at Dutchess County, we have a number of mass gathering events throughout the year. The Dutchess County Fair attracts nearly 500,000 people over a 6-day period. That's no exaggeration. It's 400 to 500,000 people. So at the Dutchess County Fair, at any given moment, you could have 35,000 people on the site. What could possibly go wrong? What do you think the #1 threat or hazard to a county fair is?
It's trampled.
Don't overthink the question.
Fire.
Stampeding.
Nope. Weather, right? Let's think about this. The last week in August, right? That's like thunderstorm week, right? Every single day in August, at the end of the month, you get some sort of a severe thunderstorm watch because of the humidity, right? So they're monitoring weather at the Dutchess County Fair in 3 different locations. One location is the command post. Where are the other 2 locations they want to monitor weather in real time?
On site.
So the grandstand, right, because they have the stage with the big speakers cranked up in the air. So if there's any sort of weather coming in, they may cancel the concerts. And they had to do this last year. They canceled a concert because wind's over a certain amount. They have to cancel the concert. What about the Midway? We have the largest Ferris wheel on wheels, I think, in the country. So if wind gets to a certain point, or if there's weather coming in, they have to shut that down. So they are monitoring weather in real time at the fairgrounds, because weather is the ultimate hazard at that type of an event. Other mass gathering events that happen in Dutchess County, there's something that happens in Stormville.
Oh, the flea market.
The Stormville Flea Market is a huge event. Usually 5,000 people attend the flea market throughout the day. How many people have ever heard of the show Flea Market Flip? It's one of the shows my wife forces me to watch. Actually, no, the Hallmark Channel is now on till Christmas, so yeah. Since July it's been on. I can't. Flea Market Flip has Lara Spencer as the hostess of the show. And a couple seasons ago, actually before COVID, so a number of seasons ago, she tweeted out that the season premiere for Flea Market Flip would be at the Stormville Flea Market. So the 5,000 people that normally go to the event for the whole day decided to show up at 9 o'clock in the morning. So a lot of people showed up real fast, and there's only one way in, one way out, right? 216. So that became gridlock over there. So that's the power of social media in a case like that. What about other mass gatherings that happen in Dutchess County? Anybody think of any other ones? Go ahead.
The ballpark, Rangers?
Well, that's good. Yeah, so that's a regular type of event. 4,000 plus people at the, used to be called Dutchess Stadium. What's it called now? Heritage Financial Park, right? So they got it down to a system there. They do a great job. They have a plan, just like the Dutchess County Fair, similar plan for those types of events. Coming up in a couple weeks, or maybe more than that, a few more weeks, in Rhinebeck. If you're a fan of Christmas and Mardi Gras at the same time, it's called Santa Claus. They bring 10,000 people into the village of Rhinebeck for a parade that lasts for about an hour. And we know it's 10,000 people because we've actually done an analysis of how many people are on the side of the road, and it's insane. So a lot of planning goes into that event as well. So there's a number of events that happen here that we plan for. And we need to understand the risks here in Dutchess County specifically. So we never really talked about public health emergencies and pandemics as the first bullet when we did this program. That all changed when COVID happened. I mean, let's face it, folks, pandemics really wasn't at the top of our list before 2020. Now we have a different perspective. Flooding is on the list, right? We talked about that. Excessive heat, extreme cold. Thunderstorms, winter storms, tornadoes and other high wind storms. Do tornadoes impact Dutchess County?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. In fact, a number of years ago, there was a tornado in Newburgh that tragically took the life of a young girl. It came across the Hudson River, it lifted off the ground, and came across right by the stadium. You'll see where the trees are still horizontal. It was not a tornado on this side, it was a microburst on this side. It became a straight line wind event because technically it was not touching the ground at that point, but it did a lot of damage. It went on for, I think, 7 miles it went on for. But yes, we do see impacts from tornadoes. Extended power outages. You don't get power outages in Beacon, right? I'll tell you how I solved the problem. So I live up by Viscount Liquor, right? I live in Wappingers, just north of Splashdown, right? And my wife said, you know, we really need to get a generator. We keep losing power. We got to get a generator. I put it off as long as I could. Finally, I went and got a generator. That was, I don't know, 4 years ago. Haven't lost power since. I mean, I'm dying to get out there to start, you know, please, honey, tell me when the power goes out. I want to use the generator.
Just flip your main breaker off.
I could pretend. I could, you know, shut it off. I got the transfer switch. Everything's on the up and up, all the permits, right? But I'm just dying to use the generator, but I haven't lost power. So I do have a snowblower, but that, you know, we'll see what happens.
Come in handy this year.
If the rain that we got over the last 2 months, if that translates to snow over the next 2 months, I don't know. I don't know about all that. But we're going to be more prepared tonight by being in this class. So that said, here in Dutchess County, I can tell you this. You know, Central Hudson, those two words are very contentious right now. I'm with you. But Central Hudson and our office have a close relationship because when there's a power outage, we are communicating with them immediately, especially if it's an area that has a vulnerable population or even an urban setting where there's a high density population, right? So I can tell you that the preparedness folks at Central Hudson that work on the front lines during storm events, when I call their personal cell phones at 2 o'clock in the morning, they do answer. So just letting you know, we have that tight of a relationship. We have a group text with the folks that are out in the field, and we work with your mayor, and we work with the town supervisors when there's large-scale power outages. And I can tell you, my job is to lean on the utilities to get power back on. I don't care if the estimated time of restoration says 10 p.m. tonight. If I got folks that are affected that are in a nursing home or in an urban environment, I'm leaning on them to get that power back on. Sometimes it's not possible, right? Sometimes there's so much damage it takes time to get things back up. But that's our job, in my opinion. That's our job as the county, to advocate for the residents, advocate for the emergency services, and really to press the utilities to do better. We do that with Central Hudson. We also do that with NYSEG, which is New York State Electric and Gas on the other side of the county. They know us well, and we have a good relationship with them. What we're finding now, as we get to the next bullet, communication outages can be a real problem, because most people have what? Cell phones, and they don't necessarily have landlines in their homes. So if you have a cell phone and you don't have a landline and you have an emergency and you have no cell service, who can't you call? 911. That's a concern for us. Now, the cell carriers and the cable carriers are not held to the same standard under the Public Service Commission as the electric utilities. So again, we view it as our job, and I got their cell phone numbers. I'm leaning on these guys saying, listen, I got a whole area that can't call 911 right now. Are you kidding me? Because you don't have a generator on your cell site. Because believe it or not, cell sites are not required to have generators. Our position is they should have generators on cell sites. That's above my pay grade, but that's my opinion. Because when you lose a cell site, whether it's Mount Beacon or across the river, Cronomer Hill, whatever's serving this area, you got people that can't call for help. And that's a problem. So we're finding that about 65% of the 911 calls that come in are cell phone calls now, rather than landline. How many folks still have a landline in their home? Okay. Wow. All right. How many folks have a landline only because you have the cable triple play? Understand that your landline that's connected to your cable, okay, that's voice over IP. So you need to make sure that your modem has your correct address associated with it. When you open up that modem, right, and you plug it in, there's an orange sticker that says, make sure your proper address is programmed into this modem, because we had somebody not long ago call 911. It came up as a Dutchess County address, and they were in Florida because they took their modem with them, and their IP address came back here. So be aware of that. You need to make sure that your telephone, if it's connected to your cable, has the correct address associated with it. Now,
How do you do that?
talk to your cable company. Yeah. Yeah, talk to your cable company. Go ahead.
I guess that makes sense.
Say it again. ADT Alarm Company? Yeah, you should be good then. You're good. It's just important though, because some folks don't have, you move from out of town into here. Oh, we're going to bring the modem. It's just not going to be right unless it's properly programmed. Now, here's the fun one. 1 second. Here's the fun one. How many folks here still have the old school telephone hanging on the wall? The copper one with the rotary dial. Kathy, you have that? There's usually one or two. Usually one or two. That's fine. That's fine. You may be the smartest people in the room. I'm just saying. Because when the power goes out and the cell phones go out, his phone's still going to work. But Verizon's trying to take all the copper back, though. They're trying. Hold on to it as long as you can, right? Supply chain issues. Let me go back to you, sir. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say,
sure.
The copper lines going away.
Yeah.
Verizon's been marking them up like 400% over the last.
Oh yeah.
Cost.
They're trying to get rid of them. I know.
And they're very difficult to maintain, and they won't support them anymore. So if you have them and they die,
that's it.
They tell you to switch to something provided over the internet, and those landlines over the internet goes out. That's not a functional landline anymore. So
see, all good things must end, and that's true. Verizon is basically ending the copper at this point. They're just marking the price up more and more per month, and then eventually they're not going to support the product. So it's going to go away, but hold on to it as long as you can. Supply chain issues. Now, when we did this class before COVID, we really didn't have an idea what a supply chain issue was. Now we know, because none of us could get toilet paper. Right? Who in this room went to Sam's Club or went to the store and loaded their whole van up with toilet paper? Who was it? It's all her fault, right there. They did too. That's why we couldn't get any. There's always... There's always a couple people in the community that decide we're going to fill up the van and we're going to take all the toilet paper. So here we are 3 years later still trying to get the toilet paper back, but now we know what supply chain issues are, right? We understand that there are still items out there that we can't get in the stores, right? That COVID kind of messed up the whole balance, right? So supply chain issues are a real concern. Transportation interruptions, we talked about that. Nuclear power incidents, we always talk about. Indian Point is in the process of decommissioning, right? They have now finally taken the radioactive rods and put them in a sealed case, whatever they said they did. So the point is that this is now improving that situation in Buchanan. Have you ever seen the signs around here that say emergency evacuation route A? Yeah. Yeah, did you ever wonder what those were? Me too. So I looked into it. Those are actually emergency evacuation routes for Indian Point for people in Putnam County. And what it does is, under their plans, these are plans that go back for decades, they're moving people from the west side of Putnam County to the east side by bringing them up here through Beacon, onto 84, down to Brewster. So if we ever have an evacuation in Dutchess County, don't follow the emergency evacuation route signs for Putnam County, okay? But that's what those signs are. They're for Putnam County evacuations. So, I know. Well, listen, I've been in this job for almost 10 years, and it was year number 4 when I finally said I probably should figure out what those things are, because they're not in any of my plans.
Because people will go to Putnam County.
You'll end up in Brewster at a reception center that's probably not open. Just saying. Hazardous materials we plan for. Terrorism, unfortunately, we have to plan for. And I can just tell you this very quickly. Obviously, things in the world are pretty crazy right now. In Dutchess County, we monitor potential issues and impacts in New York City on a daily basis. We get about 60 or 70 pages of intel a day on what's happening in this area. Why do we care what's happening in New York City? Because it could affect us, right? Tragically, on 9/11, people had no choice. Many people got on the trains and rode them north, right? And they ended up in Dutchess County, right? So we have plans for decontamination. We have plans for hazardous materials. And let's just hope that things don't get worse in this world. Unfortunately, they may. Civil unrest, you know, we dealt with that mainly in 2020, right? This country went through a lot in 2020. We have plans for civil unrest. Chemical and biological threats, we monitor that as well in the county. So, that being said, all that information, what is Dutchess County's #1 threat or hazard based on the analysis, the most recent analysis we did in 2022? What would it be?
2024 election.
Not the 20... Let's not even bring that up. Listen, we don't talk politics in this class, okay? She said 2024 election. No, that's not the #1 threat. That'll be next year's, okay? It should be flooding. Should be flooding. However, when we do the hazard vulnerability analysis and we sit in the room with a number of planners and we look at what has happened and what could happen and what will happen, sometimes it's a little back. Pandemic came in as #1 because in 2022 we were still coming out of the pandemic even more than we are now. So it was still fresh in people's minds. So pandemic is #1 on the list. Cyber attack. Cyber attack is something that's real and it is something that's concerning. All right. And I'm not just talking about corporate cyber attacks. I'm not just talking about government. I'm not talking about critical infrastructure. I'm talking about getting a text message yesterday on my phone that said Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union, the logo, and said, click here, we need you to confirm something. Right? No, you guys, somebody in this room probably got it too, right? Yeah. What is that? That's a phishing scheme, okay? My dad is 84 years old. He just fell for one of these. Luckily, I was able to stop him from sending money in the mail.
Thank God.
But there's a lot of people that, you know, fall victim to these things, right? So it looks real, right? The link looks real. It's not. So don't click on anything. The United States Postal Service one? Yeah. So there's a number of them. There's a number of them. So be aware of any text message you get or any email you get from an entity that shouldn't be texting you or sending you an email, right? Don't provide any personal information to anyone. My dad got to the point where he downloaded forms and was filling out forms to return back to this entity that presented themselves as PayPal when they weren't.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
I found out what you do is you go to the icon in the left-hand corner and click on it, like Amazon's doing the same. Somebody's sending out Amazon, whatever they call it. And so if you go up to the left-hand corner and click on the icon, if it doesn't come up with the Amazon logo, don't open it.
Right. So basically, there are email addresses that on the face may appear to be official, but if you highlight them, you'll see that they're not real. So understand that. I also want to tell you this. I had it happen to me. Listen to this. So I have Venmo. Anybody hear of Venmo? Right. Yeah. You know, family members paying family members sometimes, right? And I made the mistake of leaving a balance on my Venmo. All right. Now, I didn't think anything of it. I thought Venmo was just like any other kind of account. Venmo and PayPal are not FDIC insured. So if you leave money in your PayPal or your Venmo and somebody gets in there and takes it, what they do is they'll somehow get into your account and they'll transfer it to a gift card, like a Visa gift card, and it's gone. There's no guarantee you're going to get that money back. So don't leave a balance on your PayPal or your Venmo. I know it's convenient sometimes to leave a few dollars in there if you got to pay a family member or whatever, but the best way to do it is to use your bank account and just transfer the money directly to them. Don't maintain a balance on your PayPal or Venmo, because I almost lost a lot of money just because I had money in there and somebody went in and started. I had 19 transactions for $99. And it all started like this. I got a phone call. Hi, this is PayPal. We've noticed some suspicious activity on your account. If this was not you, press 1. As soon as I pressed 1, the transactions happened. So it was like a reverse kind of scheme. So they're not going to call you. I fell for it. But again, you think they're calling you. That's how crazy these schemes are getting. So be aware of that, right? Don't trust anything when it has to do with this. And that's all part of the cyber. These are all cyber attacks. This is, you know, situations where they're trying to take your money. We talked about sustained power outage. When you have a power outage for 1 day, right, it's an inconvenience. When you have a power outage for 3 days or more, who are going to be most impacted by that?
Low-income people.
Could be low-income folks. Could be, really, to generalize it, vulnerable folks that have maybe medical issues. They may be sensitive to high and low temperatures, right? Research has shown socioeconomically depressed populations do not do well when the power is out for a long period of time, right? Our job at the county, like I said, is to get that power back on as soon as possible, because if we can get power on quicker, there will be less problems.
What happens if the power goes out and your food goes bad? Do you all cover that?
Central Hudson has an obligation after, I think it's 24 hours, to provide for reimbursement for lost food in freezers and refrigerators. They also have to now provide dry ice within, I think it's like 4 hours or something. They have to start offering dry ice and bottled water. So our job is to communicate that to you, okay? And we'll talk about that. Flooding we talked about. That's really number 1 on the list. We'll talk more about that. Civil unrest we talked about. Active shooter. Why is active shooter showing up on this list? So statistically, active shooter is very low. However, every time we do this program, or we do this hazard vulnerability assessment, one just happened. I did this program last Wednesday night in the town of Wappinger. Got home, turned on the TV, what did I see? Maine. And I turn it, I go, here we go. So the reason why this shows up on our hazard vulnerability assessment is because it's front of mind when we're doing these things. As I mentioned before, there's an active shooter stop the bleed training that's going to be happening at my office in Hyde Park coming up on Tuesday, November 28th. The flyer's over here. What we want to do is bring those trainings out here to the communities, which we hope to do in 2024. This program really focuses on what to do in the event of an active threat. Run, hide, fight. It talks about that whole methodology of run, hide, fight. That's the first half of the program. That part of the program is presented by Deputy Mike DeRosa. He's a deputy sheriff. He's on the emergency services unit for the sheriff's office. Very good instructor. The second half of the program talks about stop the bleed. And that's where the Medical Reserve Corps will show you how to use tourniquets and how to save someone's life. So it's a very important program. I mean, it's unfortunate that we have, it's free, yeah, it's free. So it's unfortunate that we have to offer these programs, but the reality is we are seeing a rate of active threats and active shooters in this country that is disturbing. There is a real problem. We have a threat assessment management team in Dutchess County. We have a number of approaches in Dutchess County to identify these potential issues before they happen. However, we also need to be prepared because, unfortunately, it's not if anymore. Right, and that's the problem. Go ahead.
The authorities in the county, we have, you just mentioned it's going to be a parade, Pride Park. So the authorities, they have a way to assess the place.
Yes.
And provide security for the people.
Correct, correct.
For us as a family, it's been like a challenge to go in public places. So they do that?
That's correct. That's correct. Okay. That's correct. So the gentleman asked, you know, with respect to parades and events in the county, do they do an analysis? Do we have people in Dutchess County that specialize in making sure things are safe? Yes, we do. We also fortify parades. We also fortify the Dutchess County Fair. We fortify these events. One of the issues that we're seeing across the country right now, unfortunately, especially for parade events, is vehicles getting into parade routes. Vehicle ramming events have increased significantly in this country also. So you'll now see vehicle barricades around these perimeter of these events. Those are all in the pre-planning process. Center Cross, as I mentioned, 10,000 people within a 5-block area. That whole area is fortified. No vehicles can get in or out. When you see a big dump truck full of sand sitting at the end of a parade route, it's not just sitting there. That's actually part of the fortification process. So yes, we don't like to talk about it. Dutchess County Fair in the food court area, you see those big planters that have trees in them. Those are not just planters, they're full of concrete. Those are there for fortification purposes also. So behind the scenes, yes, there are individuals who specialize in doing threat assessments and managing risk at these types of events. So, major transportation accidents on the list. Unfortunately, we just saw one in Orange County with that charter bus. Hazmat release in transit comes up. Hazmat release comes up as well. Barton Orchards, that propane truck that leaked and caused a fire on Barton Orchards. Hurricane tropical storm, that's also on the list. These are basically the top 10 that we had in 2022. This will change each year, but it allows for us to know what we should be planning for. This slide's in here because in 2017 we saw a record number of billion-dollar losses across the country. Anytime you see more than a $100 billion loss, that's a significant storm impact. We're seeing these types of impacts more than we've seen in the past. And in 2017 is when those wildfires started breaking out in California. So this really took things to another level from an emergency management standpoint. So the idea this evening is for you to understand that, as we've mentioned, you and your family are really the foundation of preparedness when you're preparing for major emergencies or disasters. You must be prepared to help yourself, your family in a disaster. You are your best resource. We want you to understand the role and responsibility of government in a disaster, and we want you to plan with your family, and you need to try to at least know your neighbors, all right? You and your family are the foundation. Your immediate neighbors are number 2, right? We want people talking to each other. We want a sense of community, right? We all have that person on the block. I got this one guy on my block that never waves back.
So you just keep on waving?
I do. I just keep waving. Okay. One day I'll stop.
One day he'll start.
But the point is we want to know each other because the network that you have, your family network, your community, your neighbors, you may need them. They may need you during an emergency, right? Local government comes in. Those are your first responders, right? Your firefighters, your EMS, your law enforcement. That's where local government comes in. They may be delayed, as we mentioned. Network in the community, knowing your neighbors, your family, having a plan, that's going to improve your resiliency. Local government needs assistance, they're going to call me, right? The county government. We have resources we can provide to assist as well. If I need additional resources, I'm going to call the state, right? The state of New York can provide additional resources as well, and they have in the past. You may have seen in the media where the flooded out areas of Highland Falls or Westchester County, they had high axle vehicles coming in to help people get out of their homes. That's the state bringing in resources, right? National Guard resources. And then at the very top of the pyramid, the federal government. And who does the federal government represent? FEMA. So what is FEMA? FEMA is not a first responder, right? FEMA is not a first responder. So you remember back in 2005, Katrina, people on the roofs of their houses, FEMA, where's FEMA? Help us, FEMA, help us, FEMA. Actually, the first responders for Katrina would be the local resources, right? The local plans need to be kicked in first. FEMA does have task forces that have specialized individuals that will come in. FDNY, best of the best. NYPD, best of the best. Coming in as part of those FEMA task forces, that takes 72 hours to get those task forces in motion and get them on the scene. So FEMA's real responsibility overall is what?
After the storm, right?
Financial support, right? FEMA will provide financial support first and foremost to who? Local government, right? So the first step during a declaration of a disaster is the local government needs to get the roads and the infrastructure fixed, right? They need to have a plan for that. Culverts, bridges, roads, that's called public assistance. That's the first step to FEMA assistance. We have had that in Dutchess County, the remnants of Hurricane Ida. Public assistance declaration was declared for Dutchess County. We were able to assist local municipalities with getting funding to fix the infrastructure. After we get that declaration, then we go for the individual assistance declaration. Individual assistance is for private property, right? So folks that have been impacted, folks that have lost their homes, folks that have had lost their basements, individual assistance will be provided. Takes time, obviously. Susan, you want to give us a rundown of your experience with individual assistance? Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Susan Gilberti. I'm very happy to be here tonight to share my personal experience with flooding. 2 years ago, September 1st, the Hudson Valley got hit with Hurricane Ida. Now, those of us that lived in LaGrange, we were pretty much on top of it, as were many of us in Hudson Valley. We knew the hurricane was coming. We had been forewarned. We brought in the umbrellas, we checked the basement, we knew to drive slowly. That was on a Wednesday night. At 7:30 that night, I called my son, who lives in Portchester, 55 minutes south of here. And he said to me, Mom, I don't know what's going on with the weather. We don't have any rain. There's nothing happening. I said, okay, that's the way it goes. Lucky for you. 3 hours later, he and his wife were fighting for their lives. So the night went on, and his puppies were swatting at the grate in the floor where the air conditioning comes from. And they were getting ready to go to bed. And so he went over and he said, listen, what are you guys doing? And he picked up the grate, and he got splashed in the face with water. He went to the door to go downstairs in the basement, and there was water at his feet. Now, the basement is 12 feet. He had 12 feet of water in his basement. He ran to the front door, opened the door, and could barely see outside. He saw his wife's car on their flat driveway. Something said to him, I better move my car. He moved his car 2 blocks away, ran back down, and literally ran into a 5-foot tidal wave of water. Water my height. He had to swim to his house. Well, we weren't having that. My husband got out all his fishing equipment, his high water boots, we got out nets, we got out, you name it, because he's a hunter and a fisherman. He loaded up the Ram 1500. In half an hour, we were ready to go. Scott texted us and said, I don't know what to do. We got down to Portchester. We got onto his street. There was no water. The cars were all over the place. They were sideways. They were backwards. There were barbecues in his yard. There were play sets in his yard. He was the third house in. My husband got out of the car. The kids came out. They were hysterical. Everyone on the street was hysterical. Grown people crying. He went into the house. He walked around. He came out to me and he said, Susan, I think there's $100,000 in damage here. We are so sorry. This is a storm of 100 years. Never have we seen damage like this. This is worse than Hurricane Sandy. And it was all because it was the remnant. He said there was nothing you could have done to get ready for this. He said, there's no money for you yet. He said, I'm going to go back to the office, I'm going to write this up, and at 4 o'clock this afternoon, hopefully we'll have some information. Check on our website. Easier said than done. There was no power, there was no Wi-Fi, there was no internet. However, at 4 o'clock, my daughter-in-law got in the car and she drove around trying to find signals, trying to find someplace. She finally found one of the local libraries had power. Got on, and sure enough, Scott's address qualified for FEMA. They had declared it a disaster zone. So imagine this. You have a cute little house. You put thousands of dollars into it. You have parties. You're getting ready for Labor Day. And now through our tears, and by now, Gary and I are both sobbing. You're praying that it's in a disaster zone. Imagine what that is. So FEMA now comes in. They see that there's so much damage in this area. They set up an office in the Marriott. Scott was able to get down there on Wednesday. He goes in, and now he's in shock and awe. When you have situations like this, that's what happens. He has to deal somehow, shock and awe, you're in disbelief. He goes in and he happened to meet with the top guy from FEMA, who was great. All FEMA guys were great. He sat down with him, name, address he brought it up on his laptop because Gina had initially applied on Friday. He said, okay, so this is what they had decided. Because it was Westchester County, all the residents that qualified could get up to $34,000. Now, in $100,000 worth of damage, that's a lot of money. So Scott was like, okay, great. The guy said to him, let me ask you a question. Do you have any other insurance? And he said, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, we just got a check yesterday for $20,000. He said, okay, so this is how this works. $34,000 minus the $20,000 that you just got. Okay? And Scott, you know, he's a kid. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know what his father was sitting with him. He said, okay, $14,000. I'll take it. And the guy said, wait a second. This is how this works. I'm not going to give you a check for $14,000. You have to have the work done first. And then you have to submit paid receipts from bona fide contractors. In other words, not estimates from Uncle Louie and Cousin Tommy. It has to be a registered company. That was the only way they would do it. And he said, and another thing, in 2 months, I want you to reapply because there may be more money for you. Scott wanted to tell Gary and he forgot about it. I never forgot about that. So with that said, now we had to find contractors. Well, there were hundreds of families that were hit. It was after COVID. Businesses had gone out of business. We couldn't find people. You couldn't buy sheetrock in the Hudson Valley. It was the end of summer. People had done a lot of work. There was nothing. So with that said, he was able to get his electrician on, who when he first called me said, I don't have any time. I can't help you. I'm too busy. But he heard Scott crying. And the guy came that afternoon, and when he saw what he had originally put in and now was destroyed, he said, I'm taking you on right now. So because it was 3 years later after they had bought the house, the codes in Westchester County had changed. So everything had to be done to code for 2021. The guy charged them $8,000. They took that $8,000, they were able to pay from the $20,000 because they didn't have all their money. They submitted the $8,000 and got it back within days. FEMA was amazing. You don't know what you don't know until you're in the midst of it, and something like the remnant is something that we all need to be aware of, because it can happen right here in Beacon. It can happen in LaGrange. It can happen anywhere. And there was no time to evacuate because now, as Bill said, we don't often evacuate during floods when it's happening. This was a flash flood. And one of the last things I want to say to you, this was also the night that the cars on the Garden State Parkway and the New Jersey Turnpike got stuck. People thought they could beat rain. You can't beat a flash flood. Doesn't matter. We have a Ram 1500 truck. My husband thinks he's who? You know, driving around. A little bit of water takes that truck right away. And that's exactly what happened on the Garden State. It's what happened on the Taconic. It's what happened on the Bronx River. The Sawmill. Those of you that are familiar with Down County, you know you don't go on those roads when it's bad weather. But try telling a teenager. Try telling an inexperienced driver. Try telling a yapper. They're not going to listen to you. But Mother Nature will win. So anyway, that's our story. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan. Appreciate it. So what gets me about that is the FEMA payout of $34,000, right? And, you know, we had a presidentially declared disaster here in Dutchess County from the same storm, the remnants of Hurricane Ida. We spent 5 weeks going around to residences around the county. A number of them had over $100,000 in loss, and $34,000 would be the max payout from FEMA in that storm event. I think now it's north of $40,000 now, but still, that's not going to make you whole. FEMA's not going to make you whole. And what I would say to you is, if you live in a flood zone, right, if you have a mortgage, you're required to have flood insurance. It's expensive, obviously, but if you don't have a mortgage and you live in a flood zone, you really want to be sure that you have protection, because you could lose everything, and FEMA's not going to bail you out. So be aware of that. I also would like to say is, if you're evacuating an area, or if you're traveling during a high, a heavy rain event, you probably don't want to travel on a road that has the word river in it. Bronx River Parkway, Spring, right? Those are the ones that always flood. They are. I mean, they really do. So be aware of that. Yes.
One thing I just want to mention, I talked to my kids today, and I said that I was going to just put some information out there. I said, if you were doing this tonight, what would you tell them would be the most important thing that they need to know? And without missing a beat, they both said their home policy. So, for example, this is mine. This is from MetLife. When was the last time you looked at your policy? Do you know your agent's name? Do you know where your policy is? When was the last time you sat down and you started going through it? Do you have enough coverage? Do you know what your coverage means? I've gotten information during the year with a sheet of paper and says, add this to your policy. They may have changed one word. That word might have been and, if, or, but. And that's a big deal. They go changing those words, and you're not paying attention. You put it away. That could change the amount of coverage you think you have. So you have to look at your policy.
Yes, and also, if you are a renter, you should explore having renter's insurance, right? I had a fire 2 weeks ago in Wappingers at a building. The entire building burned down, and not many, if any, had renter's insurance. And that's a tragedy. So understand that if you're a renter, it's not that expensive. Renter's insurance is actually, it can be relatively nominal. It's worth looking at it, though. Trust me. God forbid you have a fire, or God forbid you're in an apartment building and the neighboring unit is on fire and you have damage. These are things you want to think about now. So thank you, Susan. So keep things moving here, folks. As we plan for emergencies, we want to make sure we're planning for everyone in our family. If we have folks in our household that have any sort of disability or challenge, we want to plan for that, right? Individuals with physical disabilities, individuals with limited English proficiency, the elderly or infirm, children, individuals with disabilities that affect communication, individuals with social and emotional disabilities, cognitive disorders. I like to say individuals with all abilities, right? We want to be inclusive. So make sure that we're also planning, we're accommodating for all those that we may have responsibility for. Personal care, water service. Do you need water for daily medical care, personal care equipment, transportation? Do you or someone in your household have special transportation needs, right? Adaptive feeding devices, electricity-dependent equipment like oxygen concentrators, ventilators, wheelchairs, dialysis patients. We spend a lot of time planning with the dialysis centers in our county. Believe it or not, they have deliverables and requirements where they have to plan with us, because if there's a power outage affecting an area, they have to have a plan. talking about plans. We want you to make a personal preparedness plan, family communications plan, shelter in place, evacuation plan. Your personal preparedness plan should include descriptions of limitations, accommodations, medical conditions, and/or functional needs, if that applies. List of medications, medical supplies, durable medical equipment that's needed, power and space needs, list of procedures, treatments, and allergies if you have folks in your household that require it. Dutchess County has an access and functional needs registry. That registry is free to belong to. It's designed for folks that cannot evacuate themselves during an emergency. So if you have an individual in your household that, if they're left alone, cannot evacuate themselves, they should be on this registry. Okay, and we have more information on that registry here. We're also going to talk about the Dutchess County smartphone app, which you can actually opt into that registry through the app. But that's a relatively new thing. If I have an issue in Dutchess County in the city of Beacon where we have a major rain event, major flooding event, I can pull up the spreadsheet. Trish can pull up the spreadsheet that says the following people cannot evacuate themselves from their house. We'll get on the phone. We'll start calling. Are you okay? Do you need anything? Do you have a family member that can assist you? Right? We don't want folks to be left alone. Helps responders plan for individuals who may need special assistance evacuating their home. Meant for those who live independently or without live-in support. Free voluntary tool. It's confidential information. We don't share it with anyone. It's just Trish, me, and an IT person that can see it. However, I may give it to your fire chief if we have a major emergency in Beacon, so that they can contact you directly if they're working in an area, right? So fire chief and EMS may need to know who those people are on that list in a specific geographic area. Family communications plan. Keep a written log of phone numbers. Why?
Your cell phone.
The cell phone goes out.
If your cell phone falls in a puddle and you can't get it to turn on, or it dies, we don't know each other's phone numbers anymore. I mean, we're not sitting there dialing them all the time, right? So you don't remember. So write them down. Have a little black book with all the numbers in them. Know how to get information from community resources. We're talking about that. Know how your child's school communicates and conveys information. My son goes to an elementary school. I mean, they send text messages when anything's going on. It's great. Good information. Even if the bus is delayed, they'll send a text message, right? Utilize text messages in social media, radio messages. We'll talk about that. Share your plan with your family members. Develop your preparedness plan and actually talk to your family members. Actually communicate. Put the phones down for a minute, all right? Know who will do what, where, and with whom. Include your extended family. Understand your child's school lockdown policy. If there's something going on, you may not be able to go pick up your child at the school. Know what your employer will do. Keep important numbers and documents together. What if we can't communicate? What if the cell phones are down? Have that conversation now with your family. If we can't get a hold of each other, this is what we'll do. Landlines could be down, cell phones could be down or overwhelmed. Some of you may remember on 9/11, cell phones were not working, right? All networks are busy, or whatever it was saying. Text messages still may work though. Texts may work when cells don't work. Power outage, inability to charge your cell phone or mobile device. What do you do if you can't charge your cell phone at your home?
Charge your car.
What if you don't have a car charger? That's something you should think about now. Make sure you have a car charger if you have a car. If you don't, those battery packs, those can be useful, right? What if the internet's down? That could be a crisis for Generation Z. Have backup forms of communication. Remember that text may go through when your cell call may not. If you're sitting there trying to call somebody and it's not going through, not going through, not going through, a text may go through. If you can connect to Wi-Fi, it may go through over Wi-Fi, right? You may be able to use Messenger or a different platform, right? Share communications plan with your family. Have this conversation with your family. You may need to use a third party to let family members know you're safe, right? If you have a relative that's on a different block or, you know, on the other side of town, you may have to call that person and involve them. We talked about having mobile charging packs, right? Have a plan to meet. Decide where to meet in the event of an emergency. Number one, your home. If we can't get a hold of each other and there's something going on, let's all meet at the house. If we can't go to the house, have a pre-identified relative or friend who lives nearby. Have that conversation now. If we can't get back to the house, we're going over there. If we can't get back to the house and we can't get over there, have another location out of the immediate area. Have that conversation now. Remember, family members may become separated. Landlines and cell phones may not work. Cell phones may become overloaded. Text messages may still go through. Consider what you may have to do to overcome these issues. Have this conversation now before you need to do it. Shelter in place. In some circumstances, it's easier or safer to stay put than to leave, right? We talked a little while ago about the emergency alert that was tested a couple weeks ago on your cell phones. There are two types of weather alerts that the National Weather Service will use that same platform for. What weather alerts will they use it for? There's only two. Tornado warning,
Hurricane.
flash flood warning. What Susan described before was a flash flood. Flash floods happen very quickly, right? Tornado warning, if you receive that on your cell phone, that means you are in a geographic area where there's currently a tornado happening. Understand that. If you get that on your cell phone and it says shelter in place, you need to shelter in place. Don't go outside with your cell phone looking for the tornado. There are people in Dutchess County that have done that. There was a guy on Maloney Road out by the airport who went outside and videoed his barn getting ripped apart. It was a good video, but don't do that. He didn't get hurt, luckily. The two types of weather alerts you're going to receive on that platform, tornado warning and flash flood warning, those are the only two you're going to receive because those are imminently life-threatening alerts. There are actionable alerts. Shelter in place for a tornado warning. Flash flood warning. If your house is at the bottom of a valley, do you want to shelter in place? No. No, you want to seek higher ground. All right? Flash flood warning is a serious notification. If you get that, go to higher ground. The problem with these alerts is often the alert comes after the storm or the impact already occurred. The tornado warning is initiated by the National Weather Service when the radar starts rotating. Often it's already touching down at that point. So when you get that alert, you need to understand that that's a legit alert. Sometimes when you shelter in place, you may need to seal the room. If there's a hazardous materials release or something like that going on outside your house, and you're told to shelter in place, close your windows, turn off your air conditioners. It could be something like there could be a house fire down the street. They may tell you to just close your windows, right? You want to breathe what's going on. Use common sense to assess the threat and continue to follow instructions from first responders, your municipality, or Dutchess County Emergency Management. When you shelter in place, bring your pets inside. Don't leave them outside. Don't forget about your pets. Lock your doors, close your windows, vents, and fireplace dampers. Turn off all fans, air conditioning, forced air units. Go into interior room with fewer no windows. Sometimes you may have to seal the windows, they say, with plastic and duct tape. That's something that may have to happen depending on what's going on outside your home. Be prepared to stay in your home for 5 to 7 days. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Keep non-perishable food items, emergency water, safety supplies. We'll talk about that. Maintain your home in working order. Learn some basic skills to keep your home functioning. Listen for instructions from local authorities. That right there is a radio. That's, for all the Gen Zers here, that's a radio. Radio is still used to provide emergency information. Many of the radio stations don't have live people in them. That's the problem. I can tell you that my radio station has live people in it, but not everyone does. The way you can tell if there's a live person in a radio station is if your favorite song is on and all of a sudden it gets interrupted with an EAS test where it goes beep, beep, this is the test. If it interrupts your song, there's no one there. That's an automatic thing. If the person talks and then it comes on, then there's a live person there. So not every radio station has live people there, but we still can provide important information over radio.
Battery operated.
Yes, and guess what? If you behave, you're going to get one of those. All right? And batteries, yes. It's coming, it's coming. Get ready. Quickly, evacuations occur hundreds of times a year. Where in this country do they evacuate most? Well, that's a good one, but recently it's been California. Why? So there's a big debate going on in the emergency management industry about evacuation versus shelter in place. That wildfire situation is out of control in California because they have now built so many homes in those valleys that when they do an evacuation order, tragically the roads can't handle the evacuation. You have people that are literally unable to get out. So they're trying to determine or create a better process. Personally, I think they should evacuate sooner. You should be waiting until it's coming over the ridge. Like, if you think it's going that way, get everybody out of there. And it's going to take time to get people out of there. Or here's an idea. Let's not overbuild that area. How about that? Let's not do that because that's part of the problem. Evacuations can occur with very little or no time to spare. Have a plan where you and your family will meet with members leaving from home, work, school, or other locations. We talked about that. Those 3 locations you pre-identified are key. Have a family point of contact outside your immediate local area for family members to check in with. Before an emergency, identify a safe place where you can evacuate your pets. Don't forget about your pets. If we have to open up a shelter in Dutchess County, we will work with the American Red Cross. The shelters that we open with the Red Cross are people shelters. However, we will co-locate, a pet shelter. People have to bring their pets. They can't bring their pets inside a human shelter. Why? Allergies, all sorts of health issues. Right, so we will create a situation where you can have a co-located shelter for animals. Plan safe potential evacuation routes. We talked about that. Know the local routes. Make plans for the ultimate destination once you're outside the area. Make arrangements with family. And this is all in the unlikely event of an evacuation. If a family member lives in a congregate setting, you need to know this. If they live in a nursing home or an adult care facility, know that they will have their own plans. You can't just go pick up grandma sometimes. You can't just roll in and say, I'm taking her. It doesn't work that way. They have their own plans, and by the time you get there, they may have already moved that person. Right? We work with those entities in Dutchess County. We actually physically move residents as exercises sometimes to make sure that we can do that, right? Keep needed supplies and medications available. Plan for all emergencies. Plan ahead for how and where to evacuate your pet. There's a reason why we keep saying pets. Have this conversation with your family on where we're going to get out and where we're going to go. Practice those routes. That's as simple as a fire drill in your house, right? When considering evacuation planning, again, do you need help leaving your home? Can you evacuate independently? Right? Can the exits accommodate individuals with mobility equipment? Right? That's a challenge sometimes for folks that have walkers, wheelchairs. You want to think about this ahead of time. You don't want to be caught off guard during the emergency. Mobility aids, will these work in an emergency? Where do I evacuate to? We get this question all the time. Where are the shelters in Dutchess County? We have a number of shelters pre-identified through Dutchess County. We will only notify the public of where the shelter is located when we open it, because there are several around the county that could be open depending on where the situation was. We have the ability to open certain locations based on geographic location of the incident itself, right? We don't want people showing up at a closed shelter. So understand, we will notify the public of where those shelters will be. We have the ability to open up a medical shelter also for folks that have more complex access and functional needs. Dutchess County and American Red Cross will make every effort to supply translators, expert personnel, and others to support these types of operations. Service animals and pets. Remember to consider the needs of service animals and pets. Make sure your animal is identifiable and microchipped. Plan for food, water, shelter, and medical care. Keep your animal documentation with you during an evacuation. For the first time ever, I saw a woman with a service goat. They Anybody see it? Do you hear about this?
Yeah.
There was someone with a service goat walking around recently. I don't know if it was legit, but. Plan for other needs: vehicles, home security, utilities, insurance, vital records, special needs, animals, safety skills. And now, here's your kit. All the things we talked about are going to come full circle right now, because each one of you is going to receive one of these kits. All right? What's in the kit? What are you going to get? Many of the things we talked about. Let's go through it real quick. No Halloween candy in here. Nope. Hold on. Oh, Hershey bar. No, I was kidding. Emergency poncho, all right, which can also be used as a water collection device. Emergency blanket, one of those, silver blanket things. You're also going to receive a basic first aid kit, okay? You're also going to receive a flashlight, a pump action flashlight that doesn't require batteries, okay? You're also going to receive, hold on. It's not an N95, it's a dust mask. Dust mask. You can also use it as a coffee filter. Some of these things have dual purpose.
Why do you need a dust mask?
In case you're working in an area that's very dusty. I don't know. Whistle. Why do you need a whistle? If you're trying to evacuate and God forbid you fall down and nobody can see you, you better have your whistle, because you can blow it and get people's attention, right? There's your whistle. You have some plastic gloves here. You get a glow stick. You get a box of a thing of Kleenexes. You also get aqua tabs. What's aqua tabs? Water purification tablets, okay? They say that you can drink out of a puddle with these. I'll let you let me know how that works out. Transistor style radio. Right? Okay. And, we got the good batteries. So Panasonic batteries. Now, in the old kits, we had the dollar store batteries. So now,
that work for one.
These should work. These are new kits that we just got. That's why it took so long to get this class in Beacon, because we were waiting for the kits to come in. So these should be good, but always have a second set of batteries, okay? You're also going to get some emergency drinking water also, okay? And last but not least, my favorite, you're going to get the lemon flavored food rations. You guys let me know how these taste, all right? Everything that we're talking about here is on ready.gov. Ready.gov is the FEMA website that tells you everything I'm telling you. So I know you're all taking notes. You don't need to, okay? You are, I see you. So in a perfect world, we're in the home stretch, by the way. In a perfect world, you're going to have a home kit, a work kit, and a car kit in a perfect world. Your home kit is like the Rubbermaid container like that, right? Your home kit should have 1 gallon of water per person and pet per day. Think about that. 1 gallon of water per person and pet, right? Food, 3 to 5 day supply per person and pet. Battery powered radio, flashlight, extra batteries, first aid kit. Learn first aid. You should do, you go on YouTube now and learn first aid. You should know first aid. Sanitation and hygiene supplies, matches, container, prescription medication or glasses, and important documents. What would an important document be?
Your insurance policies.
Insurance policy. Medical history, medical insurance, Social Security, passport, driver's license, identification. Don't put the original copies in this kit. Make copies of everything, right? Copies of prescriptions, credit card, bank information, deed for the home. God forbid the area is evacuated, you want to try to get back to your property and need to show some proof that that's your property, right? Insurance card, wills, deeds, immunization records, Also for your pets. And then, of course, licenses, birth certificates, passports. These are some things that you should have in your kit. Other things, whistle, extra clothing, small manual kitchen tools, wrench and pliers, local maps, you know, big pieces of paper that have roads on them. Pet care items, special items for infant or children, cash, coins. How much cash? $1,000 over here? Wow. I always just ask the question just to see what people say. There's no right answer. You put what you can afford in there, but don't put a $100 bill in there. Break it up, right? Break it up. Coins, cash, ones, fives, tens, right? Break it up. And by the way, don't go into your kit to get money for the pizza man out of there. And don't go into your kit to get a wrench or a screwdriver. You know what's going to happen. You're never going to put it back. Right. Additional items to consider: mess kit, disposable flatware, feminine hygiene items, pet care, sturdy shoes, sleeping bags, fire extinguisher, duct tape, you know, things like that. Go ahead.
Hand sanitizer, bar soap.
Of course, put it right in there. Of course, yeah, exactly. Don't forget. Now, this kit you're getting is more comparable to this car or work kit, right? It's a portable, durable bag, 1 to 3 days of supplies, food, water, emergency blanket, flashlight, light stick, first aid kit, hygiene items. Some other items you can put in there. What else would you put in this bag?
Medicine.
Medication, if you can get extra medication, which is always a challenge.
Snacks. Is there duct tape?
Duct tape is good.
A blanket.
Exactly. So what we do is we call this a preparedness starter kit. All right? It's a starter kit. So you're going to get the basics in it, but there's room to put other things. So think about what would be appropriate for you. We're in the home stretch. How can we communicate with you? The emergency alert system is the old school alert system you hear on the television and on the radio. It used to be the emergency broadcast system back in the day. Beep, this is a test, right? Now it's like a digital type sound. You'll hear it on TV. The problem and the challenge these days with the traditional broadcast television and radio alert system is what?
Not many people are watching.
People are streaming. They're on Netflix, they're on Hulu, they're on Max, they're on all these, there's so many now. Those don't necessarily participate in the emergency alert system because most of the stuff you're watching on there, well, a lot of it's live now, but most of it is you're streaming content that's pre-recorded, right? It's not even live. So that doesn't always work. Wireless emergency alerts is the platform that was tested a couple weeks ago, and that's our fail-safe. That's how we communicate with you if we have a life-threatening emergency. It's going to be your cell phone. That's how we're going to be able to communicate with you. Yes, I can do reverse 911 calls. I could call your house. Who's going to answer an unknown number? Nobody. I can actually make it say Dutchess County on your caller ID. Who's going to answer it? Nobody. I can make it go to your voicemail. I can record a message and put it on your voicemail. You might check it in a couple days, right? Maybe, right? So the point here is the most effective way for us to communicate critical information is the wireless emergency alert system. Now, that said, other options do exist. Weather radios are available for purchase. Basically, if you want to know any sort of weather emergency, winter storm watch, winter storm warning, thunderstorm watch, thunderstorm warning, you can get a weather radio. I had one in my house. When I got this job, it lasted about 3 nights before my wife threw it across the room. Not even kidding. New York Alert is another option. You can sign up for New York Alert. It's the New York State notification system, nyalert.gov. The problem with New York Alert is when you sign up for it, it defaults you to every notification. So you're going to get sewer discharge notifications in Newburgh. You're going to get all these different notifications you don't need to know about. You can uncheck the box if you want, but the best option is our county smartphone app. It's called Ready Dutchess, and we're going to show you a QR code that you can download it here tonight. We also have our social media, Dutchess County Emergency Management on Facebook and on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at Dutchess Alerts. On a blue sky day like this, we'll put training opportunities on there. During a storm, we will provide critical information. That's Dutchess County Emergency Management on Facebook or at Dutchess Alerts on Twitter or X.
Are the trainings all free?
Everything's free. Everything I'm talking about here is free.
Okay.
This is the way we look at it. You all pay taxes. Everybody in this room pays taxes in some way, shape, or form. In fact, we all pay too much. I take federal Homeland Security funding, right, that comes from the federal government. It comes into Dutchess County. We get it anyway. What we do is provide programs like this to give back to the residents. That's what we do. All this is paid for with federal money. We take that money, we give it back tangibly. Not every county does that. Some counties buy vehicles and do all sorts of crazy stuff. We want to give a portion of that back to the community through training like this, through the Medical Reserve Corps, through these apps. All this is paid for with federal money. So we're paying taxes anyway. Let's bring it back to the people. That's our position. That was the position of Marcus Molinaro, our former county executive. That's the position of Bill O'Neill, our current county executive. So this is the app. It looks like this on your phone. We're going to show you how to download it real quick as we end here this evening. It's a great app. It automatically updates. You don't have to worry about like your banking apps when you go on, time to update, and you got to sit there. It automatically updates on its own. It gives you the opportunity to create an emergency plan on the app. It gives you access and functional needs registry. You could sign up right there on the app. But most importantly, during an actual emergency, when shelters open, there's a shelter map on here. There's also training opportunities on here and preparedness tips as well. I'll put this back up when I'm done, but this QR code right here, if you turn your phone on, your camera, you could shine it on there and download it in a second. Or we have it over here on these, right here on these cards right here. No cost, no in-app purchases. We don't share any information. I'm going to go to the next slide real quick and then we'll come back. All right. So as we conclude here this evening, folks, I thank you for taking time to be here. Bottom line, get involved in your community. Volunteering helps your community and gets you involved in emergency planning and preparedness. Volunteers are always needed in the volunteer fire service. I always got to get that plug in. I got 32 years in my volunteer fire service. I don't need no need to applaud. People that do that kind of thing aren't looking for any sort of applause. But here in Beacon, you have a combination paid volunteer fire department, great fire department here in Beacon. I got to get a plug in for Beacon Volunteer Ambulance Corps. Great organization. Dale Plummer was here before. He's from BVAC. They deserve a round of applause. Beacon Volunteer Ambulance Corps. Give it up for them. If you want to become an EMT, BVAC will make sure that you are trained. They will get you that training. It's a great organization. Check in with those guys. MRC, Medical Reserve Corps, the volunteers support the county public health and emergency response departments. If you have any interest in joining the MRC, speak to these folks over here. It is a great organization. Can't say enough good things about them. Help yourself and others by increasing your preparedness as you did this evening, learning basic skills, knowing your surroundings, get involved in your community, plan for family members who have access and functional needs, plan for your pets, know the resources outside your community. Remember, your family may not be together when disaster strikes. Make your plans today, identify your points of contact, know how you will communicate, plan for your pets, make sure everyone knows the plan. Some websites that have some good information, dutchessny.gov is our county website. Our partners at the Cornell Cooperative Extension, right there. Our state partners, right there. Everything we talked about this evening, ready.gov is the website. If you want to see anything we talked about, go to ready.gov. Remember, you are your own first responder until assistance may arrive. Be prepared, folks. Thank you for spending your evening with us. Hold up, Kathy's got something here real quick.
Before we leave for tonight, I just wanted to bring up one person to speak for just 1 minute. But before we do that, thank you very much, sure, Mr. Bill Dale, for your presentation.
Sure, thank you.
Very valuable information.
Thank you.
And without further delay, I would like to call up Miss Rose Alejandra, our president.
Oh, we got to get a plug in for the Lions Club.
And the
Listen,
Elks.
and the Elks Club. Other great organizations you should be involved with. Take it away.
And if you're interested in joining our organization, we need volunteers. We need great people like you guys to come out and really help us with these type of initiatives and educating our community and helping any way you can. Elks or Lions Club, if you're interested in joining. We have some Elks here tonight. Raise your hand if you're an Elk. If you're interested in joining, see me or any Elk that has their hand up. Lions Club as well. We have 2 lions right here in the audience. If you're interested in joining, let us know. But before anybody leaves, just 1 minute, you're going to want to hear this information. Rose, take it over.
All right. We want to give a bigger hands of applause for this man right here. This man to come here, and we really thank you.
Thank you.
Because I know you have a very busy schedule, and myself, and I'm so thankful for Kathy, who's been so persistent.
Thank you.
And, oh my God, thank God for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Also, if you don't mind, the only thing I can give you, Bill, is say a prayer for you.
Thank you.
Because I know you guys are here, and those information that you guys get, I want you to go and share with other people, because I have the nurse, and this is like thousands of dollars of information you just got right now. You better thank God for it, okay? So I just want to say a quick prayer that we can get out of here. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you, oh God. Thank you for this time, oh God. Thank you for Bill, oh God, who you give a gift, who was able to come and share with us, oh God. We thank you for Kathy. We thank you for all the volunteers, all the people that come and spend time to come and put this together. We just want for your blessing upon them. And anyone here who have any kind of issues, problem, or disease, Lord, I pray that you would touch them and heal them. And I pray even as they go home, oh God, I pray that you would take them home safely. And I pray that they never have to use this package. But I pray that you protect them and just help us to go out there and be a blessing to others, oh God. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you.